You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Bucklar, and today I'm joined by Natasha Hawker. Now, Natasha's from Employee Matters, and she's a HR expert, and she's here to share some of her insights with us. And for those people who are listening, we're going to be drawing some video as well. It's on YouTube, but we're going to tell you what it's like. So it'll be television by word pictures, I guess. Natasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Wayne. It's lovely to be here.
Now, Natasha, given that our audience is multinational for this show, and you're an Australian HR expert, what can you share with an international clinical audience about how they can get value out of their HR and employees?
Great question, Wayne. My belief is that your employees are your greatest asset. They're also potentially your greatest liability. And for most businesses out there, they want to achieve a lot with their business. And in order to do that, you have to hire the best, manage your teams to build high performance teams, and you need to exit your non-performers. And so what I wanted to walk your listeners through this morning is a simple model, and I'm just going to put my screen down here so I can draw. Bear with me. Can you see my screen at the moment, Wayne?
Yes, we can.
Right. So it's a really simple diagram, and when we draw this for our clients, they really have a bit of an aha moment. And I'm just going to draw down the bottom here. It's a normal 4-quadrant model. It's an axis along the bottom, which is engagement, from low engagement or fear to high engagement. They're your super keen bunnies. And then on the other axis, we have a capability indicator from low to high capability. In other words, are they great at their job? And do they know what they need to be doing? So there are 4 quadrants. In the bottom left-hand quadrant, that's our prisoner quadrant. At our prisoner level, think of it as your low level of employees, and they have a low level of capability and their low levels of engagement. The quadrant above that on the left-hand side is what we call our conscript model, or our conscript quadrant. And your conscripts, you can recognize them. They're typically quite good at their job, Wayne, but turn your back and they tend to have a bit of a whinge. They're not truly engaged in the business. And they often sort of sneak a little bit under the radar. But the way you recognize that one is, for example, your top sales guy who brings in $500,000 worth of business a year, but everyone knows he's the company bully. But we leave him in that role because we know he makes great sales. The quadrant on the bottom right-hand side is what we call your trainees. And these are your super keen but green buddies. These are guys who are grads straight out of university, your early tech clinicians, but they don't have a lot of experience or grey hair yet, but they want to learn. And your last quadrant, the top one, let me just write this correctly, is called your volunteer quadrant. Now, in your volunteers, they are high on capability and high on engagement. Now, what I would suggest for you is, for your listeners, is to draw this model themselves and then either to place people's names or the percentage of their workforce in these 4 quadrants. Now, typically a couple of things happen. One is that if you don't look after your trainees, the prisoners will look to drag them into, keep them company as a prisoner. So you need to look after them. The best thing to look after them is to actually buddy them up with your volunteers, your super duper, what I call your superstar employees, so that they drag the trainees into the volunteer quadrant. These guys on the left-hand side should be on performance management. Often we find that they're not. They're just moseying along, and they need to actually proactively manage these guys either to being volunteers or out the door, show them the exit. Now, your volunteers of your workforce, we recommend you have between 80 and 90% of your workforce in that volunteer category. And I would argue that you can't be number one in your business if you don't have a high proportion of your workforce in that volunteer category. And you risk losing your trainees if you don't look after them. And, you know, a lot of your volunteers don't get recognized for the work that they do, and that can be a really sad thing. So I'd love for your listeners to have a go at that model and see how that resonates for them, whether that, even if they're a worker, whether they can pick their volunteers and their prisoners within in their own workforce. But it's often a fairly quick and easy way for business owners and managers to go, you know what, I've got a team full of conscripts and prisoners. And that's why I'm struggling to get anything done in this.
It's a very fascinating model, Natasha. As you're drawing it on the board, I could imagine it in one of our station management meetings and giving everyone a post-it note and saying, now, stick yourself along that engagement line and stick yourself along that capability line, and now figure out where you sit on the board, and then we'll draw in the quadrants afterwards.
Exactly.
And
it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think there would be a lot of people who might be a bit shocked to find that they're in that prisoner and conscript area. And as you say, they're the person for whom performance management's important.
Exactly. And look, a lot of this is around cultural fit too. Your conscripts can do the job, but they're not bought into your mission or your vision. They're not bought into your why. Why do you do what you do? And, being able to hire these people in, hire your volunteers in, hire your trainees, but have them on a mentoring program so that you lift them up quickly, and to have the difficult conversations and get rid of or pull them into that volunteer segment is really, really important.
And we do have people who come to work for us from time to time who say, I would do this job even if I didn't get paid. I just love what I do. And I guess that's the definition of a volunteer, isn't it?
That is exactly the definition. These are the guys that even if they won the lotto tomorrow, they'd still come to work with you because they're so bought into you, your business, your product, and your purpose. And want a whole group of those, because those guys can achieve a lot of things. I think what often happens, Wayne, though, is because those guys are low maintenance, they don't get the attention that they deserve. And I would suggest to your listeners across the globe at the moment, because it's not just in Australia, we are in an incredibly tight applicant market where skills are hard to come by, particularly in the allied health space in Australia at the moment. And so in order to protect your business, you need to make sure you're retaining these volunteers. What are you doing to proactively retain them? And one of the recommendations we have for our clients is to conduct stay interviews. Talk to them about what would make you stay with us for another 2 years. Why do you work for us? What keeps you here? What will keep you here for another 5 years? And that can be a very powerful conversation.
Now, Natasha, it's been a great insight in that model. And for people who are listening rather than watching us, let me just recap it for you. It's a 2x2 matrix, much beloved of academics everywhere. The one axis is engagement. The other axis is capability. At the 0 point, both are low. At the extremes, both are high. And so from that, we get 4 quadrants: bottom left, prisoners; bottom right, trainees; top left, conscripts; top right, volunteers. And if I've confused you with that description, you can actually look at the video on YouTube and you can see as Natasha's been drawing it live for us. Natasha, there'll be people listening who have heard you speaking and go, wow, that Natasha Hawker's a smart lady. She knows a lot about people. We need to reach out to her. How can people get hold of you?
Yeah, best to contact me through the website, which is employeematters.com.au, or alternatively through my personal website. I do a lot of speaking gigs and I'm an author, and that's natashahawker.com.
And given that you've just been drawing your model and talking to me over the internet, I'm guessing you can do this around the world.
Exactly. And I've worked and lived all over the world, luckily enough. So I've worked and lived in the UK and down in India, and I've done work up in the US, so I'm familiar with some of the environments as well.
Geography shall be no barrier to us.
Exactly.
Natasha, thanks for your time this morning. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope that's been helpful, and happy to help anyone who wants to talk to me.
It has been very helpful. If you just joined us on Health Professional Radio, you've just missed my chat with Natasha Hawker of Employee Matters, and we've been talking about some of the things you can do in a clinical sense or in a clinical business. Don't feel that because you're a doctor or a lawyer or a radiologist that this doesn't matter to you, because if you're in private practice, you'll know having a team of people on your side that works well is critically important. And if you're in public practice, you'll know that having a team with you who work well makes all the difference to your time at work, your career, and your patient outcomes. So Natasha's been talking about exactly that, how to get a team of people that work for you brilliantly. Now, the good news is you haven't missed Natasha, because on our website we have a transcript and we have an audio archive on iTunes and YouTube and SoundCloud. But most importantly for this segment, because we've been drawing little models on the screen, if you look at the YouTube video, you can see that model being drawn live as Natasha explains it. And the links to all of those things are available on the HPR website at Health Professional Radio, hpr.fm. And if you're listening to us on social media, we do appreciate all those likes and shares and smiley faces, but most particularly, if you have questions, either for Natasha or for us, pop the question in the comment section of any of the social media. We monitor them all, and we'll either pass it on to Natasha or we'll be able to answer it ourselves. This is Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Bucklar.